Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast. And there's always a lot of conversation around Xbox Game Pass and whether or not it's good for games or if it's bad for games. A lot of people assume that if a game launches into Xbox Game Pass, it's just not going to sell because people are going to subscribe and simply move on. Well, we actually have two different topics today that might go against that assumption just a little bit. Now, I still think there will be some different interpretations for this, but we're going to get into all of that today, as well as the PlayStation 5 Pro, and what I think developers need to be doing going forward, because there are a few games that's maybe damaging the PS5 Pro's reputation when they really shouldn't be. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Sonic X Shadow Generation. Let's just kind of be clear here. Sega had an absolutely amazing year. I know there's a conversation about this being a down year for gaming as a whole, but we really can't say that when it comes to Sega. They've been one of the few publishers that's just been firing on all cylinders with games like ReFantazio, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm a little surprised we didn't see more of that for the Game Awards, but just continuing on, they also released Persona 3 Reload, Unicorn Overlord, and yes, Sonic X Shadow. Just an amazing year. But before the release of Sonic X Shadow, I mentioned that I hope it does well, because Shadow is my favorite character within the Sonic universe. I think it's a shame that they haven't utilized him more often, and this game could potentially be the game that really proves his status as a more focal character. And, well, lo and behold, reportedly it's already sold 1.5 million units worldwide. This puts it right in line with Astrobot, albeit that is an exclusive to PlayStation, just one platform. But just like Sony, Sega is celebrating this as a big-time success. So big congrats to Sega, and also congrats to Sonic and Shadow fans. It's really nice that we're consistently starting to get these high-quality Sonic games, and clearly it's paying off for Sega. Oh, and we got a curious update for Black Myth Wukong. It just won the Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards, so big congrats to Game Science. This is very well deserved, and my hat's off to them. But where things get really interesting is that a part of their acceptance speech, they mentioned there, quote-unquote, might just be some surprises for you later this year. So, there's only a few things that kind of comes to mind. The first of which is a PlayStation 5 Pro enhancement patch. This is one of those games that would really benefit from something like that, so crossing my fingers for that one. There's also the possibility that it could be an Xbox port. I know there's been a big controversy over its delay. Did PlayStation buy its exclusivity or not? But what we do know is that Game Science is absolutely still planning an Xbox version. It's really just a matter of when rather than if, unless they say otherwise. But this could also be something completely different. It could also possibly be some kind of DLC. And in fact, it was pointed out that whatever they teased, they seemingly suggested that it was for existing players. So I'd say with that in mind, if you're on Xbox, I wouldn't get my expectations up too much. You never know. They could announce it for Xbox next month, but we probably won't have to wait too long to find out either way. It's very possible that whatever they're teasing will be announced at the Game Awards, where Wukong is up for the Game of the Year. Now, the PlayStation 5 Pro has had a very, I'm just going to kind of say, an interesting launch. This is a very expensive console comparative to what we're used to seeing, and reportedly it's sold well. It's tracking ahead of the PlayStation 4 Pro, or at least early on. I don't necessarily expect that to be the case in the long run when its initial hype dies down. But the thing is that when you pay a premium price, there is a certain expectation that comes along with that. And the expectation for the PlayStation 5 Pro is quite simple. We expect it to make games look and to perform better, or at the very least, not to look worse. And that's kind of the bizarre thing about its launch, because this has been an issue for a select few games. And I don't necessarily blame Sony for this per se. I think this is actually more on the developers and how they're implementing quote-unquote pro enhancements. But no matter how you view this is a bad look for the PlayStation 5 Pro, because there are reports going around about how games look worse. We have Digital Foundry with 1 million plus subscribers, and they've already put out several videos of pro enhanced games that have graphical problems on the PlayStation 5 Pro where they didn't have issues on the base PS5. It's just a bizarre situation, and it leaves a bad impression for the community. Anybody who's on the fence for this device, this is something that might put them off. But basically, all this is because of Sony's AI upscaling technology, PSSR. Now, it is important to keep in mind that this is an early technology for Sony. It's still in its infancy stage, and based on past history with other technologies like this, it will improve over time. And I do think that it's important to point out, for the most part, the PS5 Pro has been doing its job thus far. There are some games that looks nothing short of incredible on the PS5 Pro. But there's a few games that's not, and one specifically that I'd almost kind of say is the exact opposite, and that's Silent Hill 2. This is such a shame of a Pro enhancement release because, first off, it's a new game. I know there's a lot of people that specifically waited to play Silent Hill 2 on the PlayStation 5 Pro. And after paying $700 to $800 to get that PS5 Pro, to see that it looks worse is just mind-blowing. And that's the thing, because this should have been easily avoidable. That's why I completely 100% blame Bloober Team for this situation. Basically, its PSSR implementation is, well, poorly implemented. It introduces this shimmering effect that looks just awful in outdoor environments, and the thing for me is that it's not like this is hard to notice. It's not necessarily as bad once you start to get inside buildings, but that's where I draw a big issue, because where's the quality assurance from Bloober Team? The literal first minute of Silent Hill 2 is outside, and that's probably where its shimmering effect is the most noticeable. Like, you don't even have to play the game for a long period of time to discover this problem. You don't need game testers to find this very obvious problem. And that's why their incompetence is almost amusing to me, because they launched a new patch today. And in its patch notes, they claimed that they had fixed graphical issues in the PS5 Pro version. Now, that's a pretty vague statement, but as soon as I heard this, I was like, awesome, let's go check it out. And then I booted it up and I started a new save file, and yeah, they didn't fix anything. Now, maybe it's a little bit better, I'm not even sure, but either way, it still looks pretty bad, and it is worse than the base PS5 version. And again, this is why I blame Bloober Team more than I do Sony. I mean, we've seen other games look amazing with PSSR. Stellar Blade, my goodness, that game looks excellent. But my thing is, why don't they just give consumers the option to turn PSSR off? In Stellar Blade, it looks excellent with PSSR, but you know what? You can also use it without PSSR. Even Digital Foundry recommends reverting Silent Hill back to the first version of the game that comes included on the disc, because it doesn't have that shimmering effect. And the PS5 Pro's extra horsepower can at least, improve the frame rate by just simple brute force. So it's just an odd choice from Bloober Team, and if I were Sony, I'd be a little upset about this, because it reflects on their new console, and any kind of negative publicity like this, I mean, the PS5 Pro is already facing an uphill battle as is with its price. But this could likely affect its long-term growth. It will scare potential buyers away. So if I were Sony, I'd be having a conversation with developers like this about these shoddy patches that seems to be rushed at best just to get the Pro Enhancement label. I don't know, though. That's just my opinion. How do you all view this situation? Do you feel differently than I do, or do you agree? Now, as for Xbox, we got a couple of updates for some of their recent big Day 1 Game Pass releases, being Stalker 2 and for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Now, I'll first start off here with Stalker 2 because there's two different things happening here. The first of which is a fix for its dead zone issues. This has by far been the biggest complaint that I've seen online. I mean, it's got various different bugs that it needs to tackle, but its most noticeable issue is its lack of a dead zone. It's currently set to 0, which basically means that it feels overly sensitive, and if you even have a slight amount of stick drift, then yeah, this becomes a major issue. This is definitely not something that you want to see in a first-person shooter. But they've already responded by saying that they are working on this issue. So hopefully they'll get an update out here sometime soon, because other than that, I mean, fans seem like they're really enjoying Stalker 2. It now has an 80% positive rating on Steam, so that's a great indication on just how much fans are enjoying this early version thus far, even with its bugs and issues. Even better here is that they already announced 1 million units sold. You can see here where they said, no wonder it feels a bit crowdy in the zone. 1 million copies were sold, and much more stalkers joined the artifact hunt with Game Pass. This is just the start of our unforgettable adventure. The heart of Chernobyl emanates stronger with each of us. Thank you, stalkers. This is just incredible to hear, because I think, like a lot of other people, I was really rooting for this game and for this team. They legitimately faced one of the most turbulent and just one of the most unique development cycles that we've ever seen for any kind of video game. So to see them adapt and to persevere through their adversity is just a great sight to see. Also, big congrats to you Stalker fans out there that waited for a decade plus. But a big part of this story is the Game Pass inclusion. They obviously got a bag of money up front for its Game Pass inclusion. And a lot of times when it comes to these day one releases, there is that online assumption that said game won't sell. But one thing that we keep seeing is that Game Pass games are indeed selling, especially on other platforms. That's why Xbox's day one Steam releases makes perfect sense for them. On Xbox, their games might sell less because of something like Game Pass, but there is a positive impact as well because Game Pass increases word of mouth and awareness. So here we are, and Stalker 2 has gotten off to a very fast start. And that also includes Call of Duty Black Ops 6. There's been a huge conversation about its day one Game Pass inclusion and how it will ultimately sell less. But once again, that's not what we're seeing. According to Circana, Black Ops 6 seemingly didn't cannibalize its sales numbers. Black Ops 6 was actually up year over year, though to be fair here, it is coming off of Modern Warfare 3, which was poorly received. But either which way, Black Ops 6 seems to be doing very well. It was the best-selling game of October in the United States, with the majority of its sales coming from PlayStation, being 82% of its full dollar sales. And interestingly, Black Ops 6 also helped increase subscription spending by 16%. So it appears Xbox Game Pass numbers got a big boost as well, which is exactly what Microsoft wanted. Now, on the contrary, Xbox hardware reportedly didn't see a significant boost, but all in all, I think Microsoft is probably fairly happy by these early results. Their subscriptions are up, and Call of Duty is up year over year. So they're just kind of raking in the money right now, despite what a lot of people were expecting from Call of Duty's day one Game Pass inclusion. Now, one thing that I am interested to see, though, is if they can sustain those subscription numbers throughout the year. But this is definitely a good start for Call of Duty under the Microsoft umbrella. Anyways, though, that's going to be for this episode. But until next time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and peace out.